Hi, I hope you're doing well. In today's video, I will show you how you can create a photograph like this, an e-commerce style photo on a pure white background. And we're going to make the original photograph as close as we can to this final result, which means that we're going to try to get the white background as wide as possible in camera. So we're going to build up this photo, and let me first show you the set that we can use to create this photograph. So it's actually a set with two lights. So the first light is the key light, which you can see here. It is simply a speed light in an adapter and then fitted to a 60 by 60 centimeter softbox, which is, I believe, 2 by 2 foot. It's on a C-stand, and this is going to light the subject. So let's get this rolling. So the subject is right there, so that's the product. It is actually sitting on a black shiny piece of acrylic plate. So this is something you can buy off Amazon. So it's these kinds of things. So that's what it's sitting on. And you can probably already see this black cardboard, which has a specific function, which I'll show you in this video. This is the camera looking straight at the product, and behind the product is just a white background. And then there is the second light coming into the frame right now. So this is actually just a speed light sitting on a couple of wooden blocks, and it's got a reflector and some kind of a little diffuser cap, and it's just pointing at the background. So from the side, you can see there is a bit of a gap between the end of the acrylic plate and this construction. So the only thing that you have to pay attention to is when you look at it from the front, is that actually, or if you look at it from the camera, is that you want the cardboards to get all the way down and even a little bit below the acrylic plate. Otherwise, you'll have a little bit of a gap where light can get through, and then you will get edge bleed. So this is basically the setup. I think there's one more thing I was going to show you. So this is just a speed light with a diffuser cap inside of a reflector, and it's just pointing towards the background. So both these speed lights are Godoxes. These are TT600s, so they're the cheapest, I think still today, the cheapest kind of speed light. They're fully manual, but you can use them with a trigger, a Godox trigger, which is why I use them. And this is just a shot to show you that the softbox is actually gridded. So that's it. That's basically the set. In terms of light, so we'll build it up, switch on one light, then switch on the other light, and put the cardboard out of position and into position. So we'll start with this cardboard out of position and with just the key light on. Then we will switch on the background light without the cardboard in position, and then we'll put the cardboard in position so you can see what the effect is. In terms of light, if you have a light meter, so maybe something like this, I've got this light meter. So the way you can do this is if you look at it schematically. So we've got the deodorant, the subject in the middle, so we have the camera here, and this is the white background. So basically what you want to do is first you measure how much light is reaching the subject with this light meter pointing towards the camera. And for instance, you might get an f-stop like this, f8. And then when you look at the other light, which is lighting the background, what you can do then is you can actually point the little ping pong ball, well, it's a half a ping pong ball, towards the background. Of course, you have to look through this little hole here if you have the cardboard in place, but you basically measure how much light is reaching the subject from the background. And that should give you pretty much the same aperture. So also f8 ideally, or maybe a little bit below, but you don't want that to be like f16 or f22 because you will blow out the edges of the product. And even if you have, equal f-stops, you might still get a little bit of edge bleed, which is why I'll be using the cardboard construction. Anyway, I think it's time to start taking some photographs. So as I said, I'll start with just the key light. So don't pay attention to what we already have here. So the camera is on, only the key light is now on. I'm gonna take one photo. And this is what you can see. So it's the black acrylic plate. We have a background, it's white paper, but it's not getting a lot of light, so it's kind of dark and gray. And the subject itself is decently lit. So as I said, this is shooting with an aperture of f8, and I'm using ISO 200, but of course you could be using ISO 100 and then crank up the power of the speed light. So let's take a look at this photo this is NX Studio. If you're not familiar with this software, this is just the Nikon free software that you can use to open their RAW files. So this is basically it. So you can check that everything is in focus, and basically this is good. But well, it's not there yet, of course. We still have to switch on the second light. So let's do that right now. So just for your information, it doesn't really matter, I think, but the key light was set to 1/8 of the power. And now I'm going to switch on the background light, which is at half power plus 3/10, half power plus 1/3. So that's almost full power. And that's actually why I'm using ISO 200 instead of ISO 100, because I would, hit the ceiling of the background flash. So that's why I'm using ISO 200. So now 2 flashes are going to be firing and should be coming right now. There we go. So immediately, by the way, this is Digicam Control, the software that I'm using to tether my camera to the computer. It is open source software, so you can download it and use it. It's giving me these warnings. The red is just a highlight clipping warning. I can switch that off. And you can see that basically I've got a white background. So I'm going to open that in NX Studio. And you can see in NX Studio, as you shoot photos, the folder is updated. So you always get to see exactly what you have shot. You don't have to close the program and open it again. So if you don't know this software, the RGB values are here at the bottom of the screen. So I'm just going to hover with the mouse over these areas, and they all read 255 in the 3 channels. So that means that this is pure white all around the product. Oops. And if I hit the H button or the H key on my keyboard to see where I'm clipping the highlights, you can see that all around the product I'm clipping the highlights. Of course, I have a little border here, which you could already see. This is just the very edge of the acrylic plate, which is not blown out completely. So all I have to do, of course, is just crop it, and I basically have the photo that I need. But before we call it a day, there is one thing that I wanted to just show you, and that is that at the edge of the product, you get this edge bleed. So this is, in fact, it's just reflecting the background into the product. So it's kind of like this very light shade of gray, and then it goes into the real color of the bottle. If I look at just the key light, you can see that, of course, the bottle is black, and everything is black all the way up to the very edge. So this is the problem with using a very large white background and you're illuminating it quite, heavily, is you get that edge bleed. You get it all around the product usually. So everything looks a little bit washed out, the contrast is a little bit gone. And so that's why in this set you can see this construction of the cardboard. And what I'm effectively trying to do is I'm trying to, let me see if I can find it, a good shot here. I'm trying to block out as much of the white background as possible without touching the product itself. So I will now swivel that back into position, because as you saw, this was currently not in the photo. So I'm going to do that quickly and then I'll continue with the video. All right, I think I've got everything in place. Let's take a shot. There we go. So I've blocked pretty much, well, as much as I could from the background. And you can see that the cardboard is actually, well, it looks like it's touching the acrylic plate, but it's really not. It's behind the acrylic plate, but it's a little bit below so that you don't get a little gap here. Because if you get a little gap, let me try and take a photo with a little gap. I'll just raise the position of this cardboard, take another shot, and then you'll see, well, this is a big gap, of course, but you can see that where you have the gap, you will have that edge bleed. So that's why you want the cardboard to come all the way down to the edge of the acrylic plate. So let's see what that gives in NX Studio. So it looks pretty good. All the edges are well defined all around the product, so that looks good. So let me quickly check with the, let's just hit the H key, and you can see that all around the product we have a nice white border. So as soon as we crop, we will get a photo which is almost completely done. You don't have to do a lot of editing to make the edge really white, or that part really white. I think it's a little bit, it's not completely vertical, so let me try to adjust that. This is not a video about editing, retouching and all that sort of stuff, but let's just try and get it. It's a little bit fiddly. That looks to be okay, and I think my crop is a little bit off center. There we go. So basically all that's left to do now is to maybe push in a little bit more color, a little bit more contrast. So you can, for instance, if you're shooting Nikon, you can use one of those presets like maybe standard or even vivid if you wanted to. And then all you have to do is export this as either a TIFF file or a JPEG file, do a bit of cleaning up maybe in Photoshop, because you see you have a few little blemishes on this product. Even though it's a completely new product, they always have a little bit of imperfections. And you're basically done. So that's it. It's, as always, if you know the trick, it's kind of easy. And I hope this also showed you that you don't necessarily need a white surface to get a completely white background. You can actually use a black surface as long as it's very shiny, almost like a mirror, because it will just reflect the white background and you're done. All right, that's it. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section and I'll be sure to take a look. Thank you very much for watching and see you the next time. Bye-bye.